another thing that I actually want to get into with this, which is the concept that they have here that like it's not, you can't be about men, it can't be about
Even
love
though
and relationships
all of
anymore.
the original princess tales had so many aspects to them that were just like, by today's contemporary standards and like gender dynamics that are considered acceptable today, like totally off like our Overton window. You know what I mean?
Let's read a little bit of this. It says, New Little Mermaid and Snow White stars say that their modern characters won't be defined by needing a man's love. It really does feel, because we've got this, and I've got this other article from C.B. Sapolsky who said that they're no longer promoting the concept of marriage at Marvel unless it's a gay marriage. It's like they don't want people to be in love. They want you to think about your career. They want you to think about anything but the concept of being happy outside of the work life. They don't want you thinking about what it's like to be happy outside of having a job and consuming products.
I suppose so. I think in the context of the traditional princess fairy tale, though, it's more so about the princess going from the damsel in distress stereotype to not even just an independent person with independent thought and
they use
ability,
the word agency
but
in here.
Into some kind of soulless automaton.
Yeah. So it says in 1937, the cartoon Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was so focused on her finding true love, and it's not even in her mind at all in this film, Ziegler says. So she says and she was joined by Gal Gadot. She says she is so focused on becoming the leader that her father tells her that she can be, and she's really trying to find the courage to stand up to the evil queen, and how to find her own agency and rule a kingdom. So
that's all about rebellion and not about actual like self-discovery or growth.
And what's gonna happen in the point of the movie where they get to the kiss the girl part? Is it gonna be like, you gotta respect the girl's career and ask her what she wants to do with her life?
Yes.
Like, what are they gonna do? Like, you know, like
that was the entire point of Sleeping Beauty. How are they going to rewrite a story that is so blatantly...
Did you ever see the Jordan Peterson breakdown of Sleeping Beauty?
No.
It's fascinating. I wish we could watch
What did he say
that.
about it?
I would
or
want
if you can
I
put
would
it
want
into
I would rather
a
let
concise
him
statement.
It becomes, the conversation I remember becomes about agency, and it's very interesting, his perspective on it. It says so she meets so many incredible people along the way, and maybe she finds love, maybe she finds friendship, but what's really important is that she finds her own voice. It feels to me that they believe that a lot of it feels like an indulgence in narcissism.
Well, it's that they don't think love or friendship are worthwhile ends in and of themselves
because
pursue.
They've trained this generation to believe that marriage is a prison, and that if you're a woman and you get married, you're becoming property, and if you have kids, you're selling your body. Did you see? I told you guys, like, somebody put up posters this weekend, like on like light poles that said like "Stop having babies." And it was like, women are not baby making machines. Stop pressuring each other to have kids. Like, they want you miserable, and they don't want you to carry on and procreate. That's what it feels like.
The cartoons took fables and inserted messaging into them from that time period. I'll admit that. And, you know, we have to point it out now, but let's also point it out for a different time period. And what originally would have been sort of a horror story that enthralls children because children are the most aware of how dangerous the world is, then did become somewhat like harmless story that is more about, you know, sunshine, rainbows, you know, falling in love, etc.
Yep.
And like talking to animals. I get that. Like, that's a degradation of the story in and of itself.
Yeah.
So why we ended up at this point with it, it's pretty self-explanatory. You already boiled down the story for decades.
And the culture is degenerating around it anyways.
Right. I mean, I just see how that happened naturally over time.
So it says, we keep a lot of the meat of the film that made us all fall in love with this film, says Bailey, 22. It's really her and her gumption and just excitement for the life above her world. So it's amazing, but it's also updated with the current times.
You know, a question I have about the Little Mermaid story now that it's getting updated this way. The whole point in the Little Mermaid movie, even though like as far along as we were in 1989, right?
Yeah.
With progress, whatever you want to call it. The point was that she wanted legs so that she could get married and live a normal life.
Yeah.
Not now is the point in this movie going to be that she wants to get married so that she can have the autonomy of having legs
I would bet
and
even
like
money that
being a
marriage-
normal human.
I would bet even money that marriage is not even a major
Well, that it's
theme.
considered a means to her end in the new movie rather than
Would
her
you imagine
end.
if it's like,
Do you know what I
want to
mean?
have legs so I can have a job.
It's like a green card. Is she gonna like green card? What is the name of the prince in Little Mermaid? I wasn't allowed to watch these films, by the way,
I'll Google
growing
it.
up.
It does feel
So
like
I'm not sure of all the
like
details,
it's
but-
like the Ben Shapiro thing about like imagine like wanting to give up the greatest gift in the world of motherhood so that you can be like a mid-level CEO
Prince
or a
Eric.
mid-level
Eric, yeah.
like so that you can be a mid-level executive at some company that will forget you the day you leave.
So the story here is that Halle Bailey's Ariel wants to use Prince Eric as her green card into the human world.
Basically.
Like, instead of falling in love being her goal,
Thank you.
she
Also-
wants power.
Also, what's wrong
Is
with
that
love?
how they're going to turn it
And
around?
current times just means no human connections or interaction beyond what can be used to get ahead.
It's you say like what's wrong with love, and it's that they want to propagate the idea that love equals subjugation.
Yep. Or
Because it requires any self-sacrifice, it's considered a form of subjugation.
But wasn't the talking point that you can have it all?
that's
What happened with that? What happened with like, yeah, you can have the kid and the career and the husband, like
that comes later.
That's the bait. Then they switch.
And then the other thing is like, what is the idea that? Okay, I forgot. I was gonna say F. Never mind. So to me, and they refer to Ziegler as Latinx. Ugh.
Based.
I mean, I just
JK.
do you want to make it a colorblind casting, or do you want to draw as much attention to it as possible?
They want to draw as much attention to it as possible.
Yeah, they're like,
I really do
we're
believe,
colorblind.
I really
Wink,
do
wink,
believe-
nudge, nudge.
I really do believe that they want to make it impossible for people to want to see love in relationships as a positive thing because lonely people consume more media. Lonely people buy products more to fulfill empty spaces in their life. And I don't think that is that necessarily the opposite. Is there some evil dude at Disney? Is Bob Chapek? Does he put on a big long mustache and twirl it and say, "I want you to do this"? No. But these changes in our culture have been going on over decades.
But Brett, is that even true though? Because like again, sorry for saying like 1,000 times, everyone. Again, going back to my marketing expertise, typically in households, women spend the most money. And let me tell you, usually when I was single, I would not spend as much money on entertainment.
These aren't being marketed towards men; they're being marketed.
I
to
understand, but
women with kids and single motherhood is a very, very large population in our country right now.
even though if I'm not the biggest thing that they're marketing towards, you know, it is money that's coming in. And I'm just saying there's a lot of guys that spend money on entertainment when they are with their significant other or when they have kids. So I don't think it even aligns with this idea that individuals consume more.
Then why is it that they do seem to be so anti-marriage?
That's what I'm asking genuinely. Like I'm not. Yeah.
I have this article from Bleeding Fool. It says C.B. Sapolsky confirms Marvel is anti-marriage unless the heroes are gay. It says last month a writer for Spider-Man Spider-Man Crawl Space wrote about his experiences at C2E2 when he got to ask Marvel current EIC C.B. Sapolsky if the publisher was willing to reinstate Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson's marriage. The answer will surprise nobody. The answer I got from Cebulski was, the thing with Peter Parker is that he always has to be relatable. They can't actually spell hast, H-A-S-T, right? It's has to.
Hast?
Hast isn't a word, right? It's not a word. It has to be relatable. Getting Peter married or having a family is something that Marvel is not interested in. I can't give you the nice answer you want, unfortunately, and I'm sorry, but I can't give you the answer that'll make you happy. Are we that far gone?
I can't give you the product that you want.
Because it's against Marvel's idea.
Because it's against my personal ideology.
Well, the company's I don't even know if Sapolsky would even be the one that would mandate this. Would probably come down higher than the chief editor. But it says they're talking about how even in the movies they've moved away from romances in the Marvel movies unless it's the characters in Eternals. That was like the last one. In general, they don't want people to pursue those storylines. I actually think that makes more sense in the superhero movies because there's only so much time in the movie. I don't really care about those storylines unless it's a main character.
It would make sense if they avoided romance subplots in superhero movies if that were because of the character idiosyncrasies or defects that a superhero would have. But
the trope of
it's more like even if they were normal people, they still wouldn't allow that subplot to take place because they're just fundamentally against it. They're fundamentally opposed to showing that on the big screen anymore.
How is that unrelatable? I ask you, how is it, and does that feel intentional? That is insane to me that you would take something that seems so on its face a good thing. Our culture has survived because of the idea of the family structure.
What did you think of the Thor and Jane Foster?
I mean, they never had. They literally had no chemistry whatsoever.
They didn't, but it was an attempt, at least, right?
And they've walked away from that in sense years. Maybe had that one really hit it off, maybe they would have stuck with it. But I don't really think so. Even Tony and Pepper Potts, kind of. Captain America, I don't think they need them in the movies. In the comics, it makes more sense because it's longer form storytelling, but. In general, the idea that you're saying that getting married is unrelatable seems insane to me.
Right. And well, I mean, I guess increasingly for the millennial audience that they're trying to reach, that isn't relatable to them because people are getting married later.
Yeah, but they're getting married, but often. Later.
So then it's just the soulless idea of a corporation taking something that's important like love and marriage and commitment and connection and using data and statistics to decide when it's relevant for cultural storytelling. But that sucks.
It's not just later, though. It is less often also.
We're
about to have the most outsized population of adult single women ever. In this country.
You heard it, guys. Large playing field.
Right, but it's like, who even is looking for them?
Also, it's like, have a story where Peter Parker goes through a nasty divorce and she takes him for all he's worth. What's more relatable than... I'm just kidding.
But it's literally like...
Don't do that.
That's literally the argument that he's making is like, why would we want the movie to be that close to real life anyways?
And it's worse than that. It's like, we know you want this. But here's your slop, now eat it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. All they want to do is say, you don't know what's good for you. We know what's good for you. Now open wide and eat up, you pleb. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah.
And I hate it. So maybe this is why I've loved pushing away from these big companies and even these larger scale, older stories. I don't want these stories anymore. I would rather stuff with less cultural significance, which has on its face a better chance of building its own reputation from scratch rather than trying to readapt these famous stories. I'm going back to the Little Mermaid and Snow White now, so that we don't have to treat every movie that comes out like a cultural battlefield where we have to debate on, is this the reason they're doing it? Is this the reason they're doing it? It's great for us to talk about here, but it does wear me out and honestly just leaves me a little bit depressed. When we watch something, even Cobra Kai, which is based on an 80s movie, which I spent a lot of time watching this weekend. I haven't finished the new season yet. There's a certain joy with the lack of cultural battle going on around it. The show is extremely well done, and there is almost no one saying that it's not. Samaritan was an average movie, but because no one sees it as culturally significant, there aren't a bunch of people whining over it. I would rather find more of that stuff than have to keep going back to these wells, only to be disappointed time and again, not even by the movie, but by the discussions that we have to keep having around it.
People are really disappointed in the new Stranger Things because it started off as such a wholesome show and people loved the nostalgia factor of it, but now it just feels like they're trying to make it as disturbing and horrific as possible to seemingly to adapt with their audience, which is getting older.
Yeah.
But it's really doing a disservice to what it originally was supposed to be. Like I heard that there were scenes where like spiders are crawling out of people's eyes and like just like random unnecessary gore. Yeah. Like they changed the entire genre of it. And for what? Like, I don't know. It seems like a lot of creators' artistic intentions get in the way of actually making something people want to see.
I can see where the trouble would be for that. So if you're a passionate creator, right, and you've created something from scratch and you have to build and build and build and build, you might get carried away with your own creation and find itself someplace you never expected it to be. Especially if you don't have somebody pulling you back. Like, maybe this isn't a good idea. Maybe we should reel this back in. That can be a failure of writer's room, a failure of hearing the word no. There's a lot of ways that it comes back to that, but I would still rather see them screw up their new product than see them keep screwing up old products.
The thing is that they have
for
those
predictable reasons.
They have those processes. However, they're very selective on who they hire. They only hire people intentionally who would like the Kool-Aid. So their argument against what you're saying right now would be like, well, we tested it within the company 1,000 times. Sure, everyone's a woke nanny, but they all liked it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And plus they're not focus testing for most of the country. They're focus testing for New York, DC, Chicago, Los Angeles, and that's it. And
the way it sounds is
New York,
the way shows get approved nowadays is that they're in a writer's room, and whatever gets the most Yas Queens gets like the biggest budget.
They don't write for your. I don't know. I would have to see something that says that, but it's like they write now for claps rather than for actual entertainment storytelling.
Did either of you see?
Yeah, clapter. That's exactly right. That's what late night TV is. It's clapter.
Did either of you see Paper Girls on Amazon Prime?
Mm-mm.
That recently, I think it just got discontinued. And people were complaining because they said basically this was using the same 80s nostalgia factor as Stranger Things, but it only failed because they chose a diverse cast. And
they can never, but you can't replicate
similar
it.
to The Little Mermaid, they're going to say that it sinks or swims, but based on the racial diverse casting decision that they made. So it's like it failed because there were a bunch of racist Yahtzees that didn't support it. It was a massive success because people wanted to see representation on screen. They can't lose that way.
Here's the thing. I feel like the first big show that got like diversified and it really went downhill was The Daily Show. Yeah. Like Jon Stewart's show with hiring Trevor Noah. And what happened with that show is essentially what's happened with every movie and show since. It's that, sure, they've got a huge, diverse cast, but the only thing that they didn't find was someone funny for a comedy show.
That is rough when you forget to hire the
and
funny.
You forgot the funny.
You forgot the funny.
And it's not, I mean, imagine thinking that there's not a single funny African-American person. There are so many incredible, legendary African-American comedians that they could have gotten. You know what I'm saying? And so even if you wanted to make it diverse, like you could have done it, and you could
imagine if Dave Chappelle had a late night show.
Imagine, and like you could have knocked it out of the park.
What if it was called like the Chappelle Show?
I'm listening.
Whoa, really creative.
That is creative. Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.
Bye.